Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan Lee, and this is my Ethical Dilemma PowerPoint presentation. During our course, we're shown many ethical dilemmas in which to decipher through the codes provided for our profession, as well as the rules implemented by our specific state. We are taught that confidentiality is among the most important when dealing with those in a counseling session. We are given multiple video resources from which to choose from, and I chose the video known as A Helpful Receptionist. In this video, we see a receptionist of a counselor who is seen talking to a client's husband. The husband asks the receptionist to please relay a message to his wife when she is done with her session. The receptionist complies and takes down the message. After taking down the message, the receptionist then says, "I will be sure to let your wife know once your counseling session is complete." Once the woman exits her session, the receptionist relays the information that her husband had left for her to the client. The client is seen to be visibly distraught and upset by this information, as we soon find out that her and her husband are filing for divorce, and he is not supposed to know that she is in counseling, as this could affect her case in court. The receptionist apologizes and continues on about how she did not know and was unaware. This is seen to breach confidentiality and is unprofessional among employees of a counselor, regardless of if it was a mistake or not. As OCR states, a nurse may not discuss a patient's mental health condition with a patient's brother after the patient has stated that she does not want her family knowing about her condition. This goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with the husband of the client knowing about her information without verbal or written consent from the client. It can cause tension between people. It could be brought to court, such as this case, and it could even be embarrassing for someone that is just simply looking for help. The problems with this specific situation would be the breach of confidentiality as well as violating beneficence. It could cause tension between the client and the husband, and it could also supply the husband with the information that he needs to then do harm against the client, which is what we don't want. It could also sharing information that is not yours, that wasn't given verbal or written consent for, and relaying information about others or someone else without permission. Breaching confidentiality and privacy rules are among legal issues, and violating beneficence and breaching privacy rules and regulations are among professional and clinical problems. I personally related to the violation of codes and laws set in place for a counselor and how it in turn affects the client. It could be very difficult for someone just simply seeking counseling to go through something like this when they just didn't want it to happen, didn't expect it to happen, and signed a waiver or the informed consent form expecting their stuff to be kept confidential. ACA standards and set codes. When it comes to breaching confidentiality, Florida State Statute 491.0147 states any communication between any person licensed or certified under this chapter and her or his patient or client is confidential. This is stated by the Florida 2022 statutes, and it basically says that anyone that has a license or a certification should keep their client's information confidential, and should not go beyond that step to then give out their information without written or verbal consent first. Florida State Statute 44.405 FS states all mediation communications shall be confidential. A mediation participant shall not disclose a mediation communication to a person other than another mediation participant or participant's counsel. This was also stated by the Florida 2022 statutes. And it basically is all about how a person should not be giving out information that is not theirs, in turn could affect the client. Florida State Statute 394.4615 is a clinical record is confidential, unless waived by express and informed consent. The confidential statutes of the clinical record shall not be lost by either authorized or unauthorized disclosure to any person, organization, or agency. Examples of federal and state laws confidentiality. This basically is all about how once you're given the informed consent form, they're signing it, they're then given the rules and regulations that are in front of them about confidentiality. You are not to overstep that boundary. It is literally within your rules and regulations to not overstep a client's personal issues or things and relay that information to somebody else. It could be harmful, it could hurt them, and we just don't want to do that. It's against everything that we stand for. Federal guidelines, section 42 USC 290DD-2. All I found about this was that they were more concerned with the confidentiality of substance abuse cases. I'm sure that they are very interested and are concerned about confidentiality among other counseling professions. However, I think it goes to show that they simply rely on the states to handle these breaches of confidentiality when it comes to mental health counselors. The ACA Code of Ethics states that the principle of beneficence is basically the counselor's responsibility to contribute to the welfare of the client. This was found by Forrester Miller et al. On page 2, and it basically states that we are responsible for the well-being of our client. We want to make sure that they're taken care of, that we don't overstep our boundaries, and that we're doing the right thing by them. Code A6B in the ACA Code of Ethics on page 5 states, counselors take appropriate professional precautions such as informed consent, consultation, supervision, and documentation to ensure that judgment is not impaired and there is no harm to others, or no harm occurs. This basically states we don't want to do harm to our client. We want to simply be there to listen to their problems, help them, and encourage them to overcome them, and not overstep any boundaries of confidentiality. Principle of Maleficence, found by Forrester Miller et al. On page 2, is the concept of not causing harm to others, which is shown to break the counselor-client relationship. You want to just simply do good by the client and keep their information confidential. Moral principles. Beneficence is the one core principle that takes me beyond the client sitting in front of me. It requires me to see the client in context of the world and moves me to change and advocacy on behalf of my client. This was found in Daniel 2020 in chapter 4, and it basically goes to show that the client and you are the only people that need to know this information. This is not for them to go in and give you their information and then you turn around and give it to somebody else without their consent. It is simply for them to come in, feel better about themselves, go home, try to work on things, and just do better for themselves. It's not for you to step in and take their information out of context and then go give it to somebody else behind their back. Non-maleficence is the directive of doing no harm to those who put their trust in our abilities. Non-maleficence requires that I am responsible to act with confidence and in the best interest of my client. This was stated by Daniel 2020 and can be found in chapter 3. This goes hand in hand with what we just said. We just don't want to do harm to our client. We want it to be a safe space for them to come in, share their opinions or the things that they're going through, their hardships, and to be able to leave feeling comfortable and confident in the fact that we're not going to give their information to somebody else. Consulting professionals that I specifically feel confident in giving information to and going to in terms of chaos or other crises that may occur in the future is Amanda Osher. She's my professional or my personal counselor, and she will not even see my mother because she is so keen on following every single law and rule and regulation under the sun when it comes to counseling. So I have full confidence in the fact that she will help me and guide me through times of crisis, as well as Tori Christensen. She is a fellow colleague, and she is also going through Liberty University's master's program in mental health clinical counseling. And I truly feel as though she will help me when the time comes to go through crisis and have the rules and regulations listed for me and help me out, considering we have the same background when it comes to rules and regulations. I will also consult with the American Counseling Association, or the ACA, as they are the ones that appoint these rules and regulations. So I feel comfortable going to them to figure out how to work through problems. Also, the Florida Mental Health Counselors Association, or the FMHCA, as they are very keen on helping people in the state of Florida overcome times of hardship and just follow the rules correctly. Potential courses of action. I would give my receptionist a leave of absence until the investigation is complete. I would provide lawyers and courts with any information regarding this crisis or incident that happened. I would apologize profusely to the family and the client. I would terminate the receptionist if found guilty, or if it would cause the family or the client to feel more comfortable coming back to me. I would terminate them right then and there. I would no longer address clients in the receptionist area, as that is their information and could be used by somebody else if they overhear. I will no longer have a sign-in sheet at a receptionist desk, as I feel as though that also breaches confidentiality. When people look at it, they could see who's there. I would inform my staff of rules and regulations by the ACA, federal guidelines, state guidelines and codes, so on and so forth, so that they know what's going on and they're up to date with everything that's going on. I would inform employees of ramifications, the termination of their employment upon breaching any of these rules or regulations. I would insist on monthly evaluations of my staff to make sure they're keeping up to date with these rules and regulations. They still know what's going on, that they're still pushing forwards to making sure that this is a safe space for our clients. I would provide incentives to those going above and beyond. I would have clients and family members or other people or other individuals that are not a part of the session stay somewhat out of the session. So stay in their car, not come, or just stay at home to really just hit home and make sure that people feel comfortable coming to me. Possible consequences of each of these actions. When giving a leave of absence to my receptionist, I could see how that may result in a client feeling uncomfortable and coming back to me, and how I haven't terminated this employee already. Providing the court or lawyers with the accurate information. It can honestly would help with the proper execution, as well as give peace of mind to the family and the client themselves. I would apologize to the family and the client. It would offer peace of mind and also maybe attempt to cause or create amends with the client for further trust. I would terminate the receptionist. This would cause peace of mind for the client and their family, as well as ensure that there's trust coming through for them. I would no longer address the client by name in the receptionist area, just to really hit home on that confidentiality, to make them feel more comfortable in a safe space, and to just really make sure that we're not overstepping a boundary. This goes hand in hand with no longer having a sign-in sheet for a receptionist, just making sure that everyone feels comfortable coming to my office. I would inform the staff of rules and regulations. I would make sure that they feel confident in what they're doing so that they can carry out the procedures properly. It would also allow clients and my employees peace of mind so that everyone's up to date on rules and regulations. I would inform staff of the ramifications, such as termination upon breaches of violations. I would supply the clients with insurance when it comes to breaching confidentiality, which would also lead to trust. Evaluations of staff will feel capable of carrying out procedures properly, making sure that they're up to date on things, proper rules and regulations, making sure that they know everything that they're supposed to know. I would provide incentives. This would make work more fun for individuals. It would create incentives for people to go above and beyond, keep up to date on rules and regulations, and just really feel comfortable in where they work. Keeping family members and other individuals away from sessions would just create a more comfortable, safe space for my clients, as well as just making sure that there are no breaches of confidentiality, and that there is no further problems that could be caused by family members or other individuals that should not know about the client's specific issues or things that they come to me with. They should not be there at all. The actions that I chose specifically was the termination of staff to be removed immediately upon violation, monthly evaluations, providing incentives, as well as informing employees of ramifications. Why these actions were chosen was basically to allow employees to work together, to feel confident in carrying out these procedures properly. It would provide staff of the knowledge of these rules and regulations and consequences of these violations going forward. It would keep staff up to date on the protocols, the rules and regulations that are then appointed by specific authorities within Florida, within the federal agencies, and within the ACA Code of Ethics. It would make work fun and exciting for individuals when it comes to providing incentives. It would allow for cohesiveness to happen and to build client confidentiality, as well as having my employees strive to work to their best ability. It would ensure a safe space for my clients, my staff, the family members of these clients, as well as myself. And it would just create an overall effectiveness for everyone involved. Ethical dilemmas to still exist would be the moral differences among staff. Some people might not feel as strongly toward things as others. Some might think that the confidentiality has nothing to do with them, so on and so forth. So I could see that causing crisis, as well as employee negligence, just not really paying attention or just not following the rules and regulations, just being lazy and not carrying out what they're supposed to. The weight of importance of staff pertaining to the client's feelings or confidentiality. Some people might not hold the client's confidentiality at such of a high standard as others. So I could see that affecting or creating some difficulties within the client counselor professional relationship. The test of justice and what you ask whether you treat others in the same in the situation. This was by Remley and Hurley. And this is to ensure we are considering what it feels like from the client's perspective and creating an atmosphere in which it would feel comfortable taking part in ourselves. The test of publicity is, are you willing to have your actions come to light and be known by others? Informing ourselves of the consequences associated with others finding out about violations and preventing wrongdoings. The test of universality is which considers if you would be willing to recommend the course of action you follow to other counselors who find themselves in a similar situation. It's just basically making sure to carry out procedures you're proud of and would suggest to others that go through a similar situation. The 7 steps in implementing my decision would be terminating those that are causing these violations, informing staff of the rules and regulations, informing staff of consequences upon these violations, providing monthly assessments of staff, to make sure that they're up to date on rules and regulations, giving examples of certain scenarios, such as Emily did this and so on and so forth, so they can then learn, point out things that were done wrong, and then learn from that and go forward with that. test employees on informed consent forms to memorize and learn the proper procedures so that they basically can see in a set form what people are signing, what they're allowed to say, what they're not allowed to say, what people are looking at when they come in for counseling, so on and so forth, and providing incentives for those applying themselves and learning stuff and just doing good on assessments. Basically, making sure that everyone's having a good time, is incentivized to do good, feel good, and make the client feel better. And then these are my references.